In a world of instant messages and endless noise, why should we still listen to voices from 2,000 years ago? Because the human heart has not changed, because wisdom once forged in fire endures beyond the shifting winds of technology. The problems are the same, only the costumes have changed. Today we battle anxiety, fear, anger, and envy just as the ancients did. Their roads were dusty and uneven. Ours are paved with asphalt and illuminated by digital screens. Their messages were carved into stone or whispered in market squares. Ours fly invisibly through the air, flashing instantly across continents. But despite these surface differences, the deeper realities remain untouched. The storms that rage within us, the hopes that soar, the fears that choke, the grief that breaks, the anger that burns are born of the same winds that tormented and inspired our ancestors. The illusion of new problems. Modern culture prides itself on novelty. We believe that our problems are unprecedented, that no one has ever faced such challenges before. We point to artificial intelligence, to globalization, to climate change, to pandemics, and insist, this is different, this is new, and in their external forms, perhaps they are. But when stripped of their technological wrappings, these problems reduce to the same human fears that have always existed. The fear of loss, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of suffering, the fear of death. At the root of every new problem lies an ancient human reaction. And the wisdom that soothed, strengthened, and steeled the ancients is no less potent today. Anxiety, a timeless enemy. We often think anxiety is a modern disease, born of rapid lifestyles and constant notifications. But long before the hum of engines or the glow of screens, human beings trembled in the dark, dreading famine, war, betrayal, and death. The Stoics taught that anxiety arises not from external events, but from our judgments about them. We suffer not because misfortune happens, but because we declare it unbearable, unacceptable, unjust. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things." Thus, the cure for anxiety lies not in changing the outer world, which is fickle and often beyond control, but in transforming the inner lens through which we view the world. Fear, the ancient shadow. Fear has always stalked humanity. The ancient soldier feared the clash of battle. The ancient mother feared the loss of a child. The ancient merchant feared the treacheries of the road. Today we fear job loss, disease, political turmoil, and personal rejection. The costumes are different, but the trembling inside is the same. The Stoics taught to face fear by contemplating it rationally. What exactly am I afraid of? Is it truly unbearable? What within my control can prepare me for it? By dragging fear into the light, we shrink its monstrous silhouette back to its true manageable size. Anger, the eternal fire. In every generation, anger has flared and burned. Ancient warriors fought for honor. Ancient kings waged wars for revenge. Ancient friends severed bonds over slights. Today, anger erupts on social media, in political debates, and in private relationships. The Stoics warned that anger is a temporary madness. Seneca wrote an entire treatise on anger, in which he urged that anger serves no productive end. It blinds reason, distorts judgment, and leads to actions we soon regret. Instead of feeding anger, the wise observe it, question it, and dissolve it with understanding. Envy, the poison of comparison. Even in the earliest tribes, humans compared themselves to one another. Who was stronger? Who had more food? Who was favored by the gods? Envy was as corrosive then as it is now. Today we compare social media, highlight reels, professional accolades, and lifestyle symbols. Yet the wound is the same, the feeling of less than, of not enough. The Stoics taught that the only true measure of a life is virtue, not possessions, not fame, not appearance. To compare oneself by external standards is to surrender peace to forces we do not control. The judgment that creates suffering. At the heart of the Stoic insight lies a stunningly simple idea. Events themselves do not cause suffering. Our judgments about them do. A lost job is just a fact. Calling it a disaster creates suffering. A canceled plan is just an event. Calling it unbearable creates suffering. A harsh word is just sound. Deciding it defines your worth creates suffering. Thus, the same event can either crush or elevate, depending on the mind that meets it. Marcus Aurelius, in the depths of imperial responsibility and personal grief, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Power choice freedom, not outside but within. Master your mind, master your fate. The external world will forever shift, churn, and surprise. Empires will rise and fall. Technologies will dazzle and decay. Fashions will glitter and fade. But the human soul capable of reason, reflection, and resilience remains. Mastery of the mind is the mastery that endures. When you govern your judgments, discipline your desires, clarify your values, fortify your patience, you become unconquerable by fortune. You stand as the ancients stood, firm though the earth trembles, calm though the winds howl, steady though the seas rage. Practical ways to apply ancient wisdom. Today, daily reflection. Spend a few minutes each evening reviewing your reactions. Where did you judge hastily? Where did you surrender? Peace to externals. Meditation on control. Begin each day by reminding yourself, what is truly within your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your intentions. Reframing challenges. When difficulties arise consciously, reframe them. This is a test of my patience. This is an opportunity to practice courage. Voluntary discomfort. Occasionally deprive yourself of small comforts to build resilience. Skip a meal. Walk in the rain without rushing for shelter. Sleep on a hard surface for a night. Gratitude practice. Counteract envy. By listing 3 things each day for which you are genuinely grateful. The costumes of today. Today, the road is digital. The market square is social media. The tribe is an online community. The enemy is a comment thread. Yet the struggles remain the same, and so the solutions remain the same. Discipline of mind, resilience of spirit, clarity of judgment, strength of character. A final reflection. The ancients have walked this path before us. They have stumbled, fallen, risen, and triumphed. They have recorded their hard-won insights, not as monuments to themselves, but as beacons for us. We dishonor their gift if we dismiss their wisdom as outdated. We honor it when we apply it not to their world, but to ours. In doing so, we prove that wisdom is not chained to time. It is the timeless light by which all ages may see. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Though the costumes change, the dance remains. Master your mind, master your fate. Walk with the ancients into the storms of your own life, not afraid but awake, not broken but unshakable, not lost but truly finally free. Technology accelerates, but the soul still walks. We live in an age of breathtaking speed. In mere seconds, a message can traverse oceans. Ideas can flash from one continent to another, with barely a heartbeat between their origin and their arrival. A click, a swipe, a tap, and information, entertainment, transactions, connections flow faster than any river known to the ancient world. High-speed trains carve paths across nations. Satellites spin stories above our heads. Artificial intelligence begins to think alongside us. Yet for all this speed, one truth remains immutable. The human soul walks. It does not sprint. The pace of the soul. Inner peace does not arrive in an instant. Wisdom does not blossom overnight. Character is not downloaded like an app. The soul moves at the same deliberate, painstaking pace today as it did 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago. The ancients sat beneath trees pondering the mysteries of virtue and fate. Today, though we sit in front of glowing screens, the path inward remains as long, as winding, and as humbling as ever. No technology has shortened the distance between ignorance and wisdom. No device has compressed the journey from fear to courage. No algorithm has simplified the struggle between selfishness and compassion. The soul demands time, attention, reflection, and patience, the very qualities that the digital age often seeks to erase. The illusion of speed in personal growth. Modern technology has trained us to expect speed in everything. Quick results, instant gratification, immediate answers. And yet, no app can heal a broken heart. No online course can install wisdom overnight. No high-speed connection can deepen the roots of patience or forge the steel of resilience without the slow, often painful passage through real experience. Character, like a tree, grows slowly, imperceptibly, season by season, through cycles of hardship and renewal. The ancients understood this. They built their wisdom not on sudden epiphanies, but on long habits of thought, practice, and self-examination. Seneca wrote, "No man becomes wise by chance." Today, as we are offered endless shortcuts, the soul reminds us that in its world, there are none. Slow is not failure. In the realm of the spirit, slow is not a weakness. Slow is not falling behind. Slow is not being left out. Slow is the natural rhythm of anything that is to last. Oaks do not burst from the ground overnight. Rivers do not carve canyons in days. Human virtues, patience, courage, wisdom, compassion, do not flower from seeds planted yesterday. In our hunger for quick fixes, we risk uprooting growth before it can even begin. The ancients taught to walk slowly, to think deeply, to live deliberately, not because they lacked speed, but because they revered depth, deep roots. Grow in still soil. Imagine a tree trying to grow in soil, constantly churned and trampled. Its roots cannot deepen. It remains fragile, easily toppled by the first storm. The same is true of the soul. In constant distraction, the roots of wisdom cannot grow. In endless stimulation, the roots of peace cannot deepen. Stillness, silence, slowness, these are not luxuries, they are necessities. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and faced wars, plagues, and betrayals, wrote in his private reflections, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. The world accelerates around us, but to grow, to become strong, the soul must retreat often into stillness." The risk of shallow living. When everything moves too fast, we skim rather than savor. We read headlines instead of books. We taste food without noticing it. We hear words without listening. We experience relationships without depth. Life becomes a series of surfaces, touched but never entered. Ancient wisdom warns against this shallowness. It calls us to experience fully, reflect deeply, love wholeheartedly, work patiently. Without depth, life becomes a blur, a flash of activity without meaning. With depth, even a single moment can become eternal. Technology as a tool, not a tyrant. Technology itself is not the enemy. The ancients too developed tools to ease life. Wheels, plows, aqueducts. The danger arises when tools become tyrants. When the speed and convenience of technology dictate our inner lives. When the external acceleration causes internal dissociation. Technology should serve the soul, not enslave it. Use technology to spread wisdom, not noise. Use technology to foster connection, not comparison. Use technology to enable learning, not distraction. But this requires conscious effort. It requires returning again and again to the pace of the soul. Examples of soulful living in a digital world, mindful communication. Instead of firing off instant replies, pause. Think, feel, respond with care. Digital Sabbaths. Take regular breaks from screens. Let your mind rest in stillness, even for an hour. Depth over breadth. Choose a few things to study deeply rather than grazing endlessly. Mastery is slow, and that's its beauty. Gratitude and presence. Practice noticing the texture of the air, the warmth of a smile, the weight of a friend's words. Gratitude slows perception and deepens experience. Voluntary simplicity. Sometimes choose the longer, harder way intentionally. Walk instead of drive, cook instead of order, write instead of text. Each small act of slowness anchors you back to your soul's rhythm. Reverence for time. Time is not an enemy to be conquered. Time is the canvas upon which character is painted. Ancient thinkers viewed time not as a clock to be beaten, but as a field to be cultivated. Each day is a seed, each moment of attention, a drop of rain, each act of patience, a ray of sunlight, and the field remains barren. Tend carefully, and the harvest is rich. The dignity of slow growth. In a world obsessed with viral fame and instant success, there is deep dignity in slow growth. The artist who paints for decades before recognition, the parent who patiently nurtures a child's spirit, the worker who hones their craft year after year, the seeker who strives quietly toward enlightenment. These lives may not trend on social media, but they carve deeper marks into the world and into eternity. A final reflection. The river of technology flows faster each day, but the soul moves with the same slow grace as it always has. We can choose to be swept away by currents of speed, or to plant ourselves firmly in the fertile soil of stillness. Ancient wisdom reminds us, slow is not failure. Stillness is not stagnation. Depth is not delay. The roots that hold strongest grow in quiet, patient soil. The character that shines brightest is forged not in speed, but in the slow fire of conscious living. Technology will continue to accelerate. The world will continue to whirl. But if we remember the slow pace of the soul, if we honor the ancient rhythm within, we will not be lost. We will not be hollow. We will be human, deeply, resiliently, gloriously human. Walk slowly, grow deeply, live truly. The more we connect, the more we forget ourselves. In today's digital world, connections are everywhere. In a moment, we can speak to someone across the globe. In an hour, we can engage with hundreds of updates, messages, comments, and posts. Billions of connections. Yet loneliness deepens, endless updates, yet meaning slips away. We are more connected than ever, but in many ways more isolated from ourselves. The paradox of connectivity. The promise of technology was simple. More connection would mean more community, more understanding, more fulfillment. Yet the human heart does not thrive on quantity alone. Hundreds of likes do not replace one genuine smile. Thousands of followers do not fill the void of deep, meaningful friendship. Endless streams of information do not nourish the soul as reflection does. In our rush to connect outward, we have often abandoned the inward journey. The screens glow brightly, but within many hearts grow dim. Ancient wisdom. Know thyself. Long before the invention of electricity, the ancients understood a fundamental truth. Know yourself first. Then, and only then, know the world. This ancient inscription, found at the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, formed the cornerstone of classical philosophy. Socrates taught that an unexamined life was not worth living. Confucius spoke of cultivating the inner self before seeking to order society. Buddha taught that liberation begins with understanding the true nature of mind and self. Self-knowledge is not a luxury. It is the foundation upon which all true relationships, achievements, and happiness are built. The digital age, a double-edged sword technology, offers powerful tools. We can learn, discover, create, and share as never before, but tools are only as good as the hands that wield them. When used without reflection, technology becomes a mirror that shows only the surface. We curate images of ourselves instead of confronting our truths. We chase validation instead of cultivating virtue. We consume endlessly instead of creating meaningfully. The digital world invites us outward at every turn. Ancient wisdom calls us inward. Signs we are forgetting ourselves. Chronic distraction. Unable to sit in silence for even a few minutes without reaching for a device. Superficial engagement. Skimming the surface of relationships without diving into genuine connection. External validation. Addiction. Measuring self-worth by external applause rather than internal standards. Loss of solitude. Fearing to be alone with one's own thoughts. Emotional shallowness. Reacting impulsively without understanding deeper feelings or motives. Each of these signs points to a loss of inner grounding. Each is a symptom of forgetting the deep, slow, powerful work of knowing oneself. The call back to reflection. Reflection is the art of slowing down and looking within. It asks, who am I beneath the roles and labels? What are my deepest values? What wounds am I carrying, and what healing do I seek? What virtues do I need to cultivate to live rightly? Reflection is not indulgence. It is maintenance. It is cultivation. It is the tending of the soil from which all worthy actions and relationships spring. Without reflection, life becomes a reactive blur. With reflection, life becomes an intentional journey. The call back to discipline. Discipline is the bridge between self-knowledge and self-mastery. It transforms insight into action. It builds habits that nourish the soul instead of corroding it. In a world of endless temptation, discipline is revolutionary. The discipline to turn off the screen and open a book. The discipline to end a toxic conversation rather than fuel it. The discipline to choose depth over breadth, silence over noise, meaning over momentum. The ancients revered discipline not as repression, but as liberation. The liberation of the soul from tyranny of impulse and distraction. The call back to purpose. Without purpose, connection becomes aimless wandering. Without purpose, technology becomes a carnival. Without meaning, purpose roots us, purpose directs us. Purpose transforms each connection into an opportunity for service, for growth, for love. Purpose asks, why am I here? What good can I bring to this moment? How can I act in alignment with my highest values? The ancients knew that a person without purpose drifts like a ship without a rudder, vulnerable to every storm. Practices to reconnect with yourself. Daily journaling. Spend 5 minutes each day writing down honest reflections on your thoughts, actions, and emotions. Mindful solitude schedule. Regular times where you are unplugged, silent, and alone with your own mind. Value clarification. Identify your core values and revisit them weekly to guide decisions. Deep conversations. Seek out conversations that go beyond surface chatter, where you can explore meaning, virtue, dreams, and fears. Purpose rituals. Begin each day by stating your intention. Today, I will live with courage, kindness, wisdom. These simple practices can slowly rebuild the bridge back to yourself. A final reflection. Connectivity without reflection breeds confusion. Connectivity without discipline breeds addiction. Connectivity without purpose breeds despair. The ancients beckon us not to reject technology, but to anchor ourselves before we navigate it. Know yourself first, and then knowing who you are. Walk into the world with eyes wide open and heart firmly grounded. In a world of endless signals and shallow currents, be the one who remembers. You are not your followers. You are not your notifications. You are not your scrolling habits. You are a soul. Ancient, resilient, luminous, walking its timeless journey toward wisdom, meaning, and truth. Walk with yourself. Then, and only then, will you know how to walk with the world. Timeless virtues are still our compass. In the whirling chaos of the modern world, amidst the roar of innovation and the glitter of new technologies, some truths endure quietly like mountains in a storm. Integrity, patience, courage, compassion. These virtues are not dusty relics of a forgotten age. They are not artifacts to be admired from a distance, but neglected in practice. They are the living foundations of any life, well lived, any society well ordered, any soul well tended. They were essential when men carved messages into stone. They are essential still as we inscribe our lives into the endless scrolls of digital screens. Integrity, the anchor, amidst shifting sands. In a world where appearances are easily curated and truth is often bent for convenience or popularity, integrity becomes more vital than ever. Integrity is the alignment of our actions with our values, even when no one is watching. Integrity is the refusal to betray oneself, even when betrayal would be easier, faster, or more profitable. The ancient philosophers taught that a man's true wealth is the nobility of his character. Today, as we navigate a world where promises are made and broken in moments where loyalty can be as fleeting as a click, integrity stands as the immovable core. A life without integrity is a house built on sand. No matter how grand the design, it will not stand the storms. Integrity means speaking truth when lies are easier, acting rightly even when unseen, holding steady to principles when pressure tempts us to compromise. In an age where masks are many and sincerity is rare, integrity shines all the brighter. Patience, the strength that endures. The digital world celebrates speed, instant messaging, instant results, instant gratification. But the soul does not operate on instant timelines. Growth, healing, wisdom of these unfold slowly like flowers greeting the sun. Patience is the strength to endure without bitterness. It is the ability to remain steady through delay, to persist through difficulty, to maintain hope through uncertainty. The Stoics knew that time tests all things. They taught that real mastery is not in controlling events, but in controlling our reactions to events, especially when things do not move according to our desires. Today, in an era of relentless acceleration, patience is radical. It is the secret strength that allows us to build deep relationships rather than fleeting encounters, develop mastery rather than shallow competence, heal truly rather than cover wounds quickly. Patience is not weakness. It is the slow-burning fire of perseverance. Courage, the light that pierces fear. Fear is as old as humanity. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. Modern life, despite all its advancements, has not banished fear. If anything, it has multiplied its forms. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage means moving forward despite fear. The ancient heroes knew this. Courage is the choice to speak truth in a room full of comfortable lies. Stand firm for what is right, even when standing alone. Begin again after failure. Venture into the unknown when safety calls for retreat. Every era has needed courage, but today, in a world where conformity is often rewarded and questioning is punished, where complexity is met with cynicism rather than wonder. Courage is essential not only for warriors and pioneers, but for every soul seeking to live authentically. To resist distraction, to navigate conflict, to create meaning in a world flooded with noise. These all require courage, compassion, the bridge across the divide. Despite our endless digital connections, genuine human connection seems more elusive than ever. Division festers, misunderstanding spreads, isolation deepens. Compassion is the bridge. It is the willingness to see the pain behind anger, the fear behind aggression, the confusion behind error. Compassion is not weakness. It does not excuse injustice or invite harm. Compassion is the courageous act of refusing to dehumanize, of remembering that every soul you meet is fighting battles you may not see. The ancient sages taught that humanity is a family bound together by shared frailty and shared hope. Compassion reminds us to listen before judging, to forgive even when we remember, to help even when we are tired, to hope for healing even when wounded. In an era of polarization and cynicism, compassion is not naive, it is revolutionary. Why the digital age needs virtue more than ever. The faster the world spins, the easier it is to become unmoored. The louder the noise, the easier it is to lose our own voice, the brighter the distractions, the easier it is to forget the true light. Virtues are our compass. Without them, we are tossed by every trend, every fear, every lie. With them, we can resist the endless pull of distraction, returning again and again to what matters. Navigate conflict with clarity and dignity, refusing to be consumed by hatred. Create with meaning, building not merely for fame or fortune, but for truth, beauty, and goodness. Virtue is not a garment to wear when convenient. It is the armor that endures. It is the root that holds firm. It is the star by which to steer, a final reflection. The faces of the world change. The problems take on new shapes. The storms may howl with unfamiliar fury, but the soul remains the same. And the tools that have always shaped noble souls remain the same. Integrity, patience, courage, compassion. They are not relics. They are the living fire, the ancient light, the true path forward. In a world that rushes forward without a map, virtues are still our compass. Hold them tightly. Walk by them steadfastly, and you will not be lost. In every age, wisdom lights the way for those willing to walk its path. If these timeless teachings have touched your heart today, let them not end here. Please like this video to keep the flame of ancient wisdom burning. Share it with those who walk beside you and seek the same truth. Subscribe to our channel to continue this journey together across time and across generations. Let us walk with courage. Let us live with virtue. Let us carry the ancient torch into the future together.